Welcome into the weekend update edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes today, and we will be here with you for the next couple of hours, talking sports of local, regional, and national interest. So buckle up. It is the weekend. This is the final show of the week. Can't hold anything back, Wade.
Yeah, we got to let it all hang out, and SEC Media Days are in the books. We got British Open to get into. Baseball is returning. I kind of like the direction that we're headed, partner.
We got a lot. Like you said, getting some things cranked back up after what's been a little bit of a snooze of a week, but looking forward to speaking in the next hour with the Vol Network's baseball play-by-play voice, John Wilkerson, talking a little UT baseball and getting a little bit into the Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies that will be taking place this weekend that will include the second player from the Southeastern Conference, Todd Helton. And somebody hit me with that some time ago that the SEC only had one guy in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it just blew my mind. So they will be doubling that this weekend. In the next segment, we will go to Norfolk, Virginia to check in with Jake Lyman, who is pinch hitting for Jeff Hem as Sounds play-by-play announcer this weekend. Jeff taking some much-deserved time off, so Jake Lyman will be bringing you Sounds at Norfolk as they open their 3-game series this evening. So I'm looking forward to checking in with him and getting the deets on, kind of catching a team on the fly like this. But also, we will be talking some baseball as the Braves get cranked back up at home. The Astros, with a big series for mid-July on the road, had a big signing from this week's draft yesterday, and looking forward to getting into that a little bit. Also, as Wade said, SEC MD 24 has closed up shop, but we've got some items from that to discuss. So we got some stuff, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot to tap into on a Friday. Vibes are high. It's a little cloudy here in southern Middle Tennessee, but the energy is good, and I like the direction that we're headed into. What's hopefully going to be a good weekend.
Absolutely. It looked a little gray / overcast like this early yesterday before the show, and kind of felt like rain was in the offing. It never came. So I don't know. It's looking a little breezier out there right now, though. So maybe we are going to get a little precip before things get over with today. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we've got it mapped out. Let's go ahead and get down the road. Let's get started with let's get started with today's and this weekend's schedule.
This is the Rundown.
Before we get into today's rundown, I want to remind you guys that the Friday Rundown is brought to you by our friends at Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The Blue Raider Voice also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. So contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or visit his website at choosechip.net. That's Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
As we told you in yesterday's rundown, there were no games scheduled. So that means in today's rundown, there are no results. So we will skip that, head straight to the weekend schedule. Major League Baseball. As we mentioned, the Cardinals visit Truist Park, taking on the Atlanta Braves. That's a 6:20 first pitch here on Bally Sports South. At 9:10 tonight, the Houston Astros are out at Seattle taking on the Mariners. You can see that one on the MLB Network. More of the same tomorrow as St. Louis plays the Braves. That's another 6:20 start. You can see it again on Bally Sports South. The Astros are at the Mariners at 8:40 tomorrow night. That one, again, is available on the MLB Network. And in Sunday's series finales, St. Louis at Atlanta, that's a 12:35 start on Bally Sports South. Houston at Seattle starts at 3:10, and it is only available locally in Houston. So,
Yeah,
shall I continue, Wade?
Yeah, I was going to say, got to bust out the MLB extra innings to catch that bad
Okay.
boy. As we roll into minor league baseball action, we mentioned the Sounds are in action at Norfolk, and that game tonight begins at 5:35. Saturday's game will also begin at 5:35, and the Sunday matinee will come your way at 3:05 Central Time. WNBA, it's All-Star Weekend. Team USA will take on Team WNBA. Game will be played out in Phoenix. Really cool court design that they've got. They're prepared for a big weekend of festivities. Some participating, some not. More on that later in the show. And then 7:30 will be your tip-off time for the big festivities on ABC. Saturday, in a game we discussed on yesterday's show, Nashville is at the Philadelphia Union in MLS action. Game can be seen on Apple TV. Kickoff comes your way at 6:30 p.m. Nashville desperate for a win, but taking on a good Philadelphia side again on the roads at 6:30 tomorrow night. That brings us to the end of our schedule for today. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the rundown.
Story brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available until 6 p.m., as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And tip of the hat to Colin Montgomery, maybe?
I suppose.
Tiger Woods failed to make the cut at the 2024 British Open, shooting a 79 yesterday and a 77 today, leaving him 14 strokes over par and tying for the worst 36-hole performance of his majors career. And I don't know where it puts him relative to the cut line, but suffice it to say, not close.
Yeah. Projected cut 8 he's 8 shots back. So yeah, he's done. And it's unfortunate for Tiger. Third straight major that he has missed the cut. Did make it at the Masters by the skin of his teeth. But yeah, we talked about it this week. That Colin Montgomery, two things can be true at once. Tiger's remarks can be true and can be funny, but they were also 100% right because he's not competing at a high enough level to really give himself a shot to even make the cut at this point, let alone obviously be in contention to win. Augusta National is a course that he's had so much success at and he plays so well. It's kind of the one major that it's like a trick shot almost. It's kind of like a trick course that he can go out and just rally, as we saw, obviously, with him winning it in 2019 there. So he's got that kind of in his bag, but these other majors have really, really produced some tough results. And, yeah, right at the end of the show yesterday, we talked about some of the scores, and Tiger was way down the leaderboard then, and he followed up with another poor round today. So there won't be any LT Gray gracing us on the TV this weekend, unfortunately.
No Sunday Red. It's unfortunate. I'd like to have played more, but I just wanted to make sure that I was able to play the major championships this year. I got a lot of time off to get better, be better physically, which has been the case all year. I've gotten better, even though my results haven't really shown it, but physically I've gotten better, which is great. I just need to keep progressing like that and then eventually start playing more competitively and start getting into kind of the competitive flow again. Tiger's 48. Right? Is that right? Did I see that?
I mean, it sounds about right for sure.
It just, I wonder, and I don't want him coming after me like he came after Colin, but I mean, what is the purpose, if you're Eldrick Woods, of continuing to put yourself through this?
That's a really good question. And deep down, I think Tiger is such a competitor and such a gamer that he probably thinks that he's still kind of capable of turning back the clock a little bit. And, I mentioned that epic run in 2019 at Augusta National. Maybe that was kind of a weird, obviously it was an iconic moment, but in a way, maybe it gave him a little bit of extra false hope as of what's to come, because the guy's just, he's, like you said, he's 48 years old, but he's also got the body with wear and tear on it and the surgeries of a 68-year-old. And so he's clearly in pain. He's hobbled. It's really, really tough to watch him just even get around on the course, let alone try and go out and be a competitive golfer at this point in his career, unfortunately.
Yeah, again, to your point, two things can be right at once. And for all of the blowback that Colin may have received for his comments, doesn't make him wrong.
Yeah, we've kind of reached the point, it almost feels like, where Tiger Woods is still this mythological creature and just this charismatic figure. Put that off to the side, and then everybody still latches on to that and wants to tap into that whenever we can. And that's why we come to his aid in a sense, or come to his rallying cry in a sense, when he makes remarks kind of like he did to Colin Montgomery. And then there's, the actual reality of where he sits as a competitive golfer. And he's just not there. And so much of this is just everybody praying, wishing and hoping that he could turn back the clock one more time just to see what could happen. We just want, as a society, as humans, we just want to be able to believe in something. And we want to believe that Tiger can do it one more time. And Father Time kind of has proven yet again to be kind of undefeated here. And it's tough to watch Tiger go out and play in a competitive manner at the moment.
Yeah. Somebody posted something on Facebook one time. There was a time when you and your best friends went outside and played for the last time and you didn't know it. There's something similar working here. There was a time where we saw Tiger at his best for the last time and we didn't know it. And we're kind of wishing, like you said, for him to catch lightning in a bottle one more time so we can savor it as that one last time. And the thing about it is he shows you just enough to make you feel like maybe it's going to come. That's the thing. He's a little bit of a tease as far as that goes.
Absolutely. And the guy is such a character. He's such a charismatic, a lightning rod for good and for bad in that sense. Bad in the sense that he kind of teases us. And even yesterday, he goes out and he has a pretty subpar round in a bad sense. Not literally subpar, but finishes 8 over. But on 13, he tosses a dart right on the green and taps in for birdie. And you're like, man, this guy, he's still got it. He still has these flashes of brilliance. He birdied number 3 as well. And that's why he will always move the needle and why he will always have eyeballs on him, because he can, maybe not for the course of 18 holes even anymore, but for a few holes, he can go out and produce moments of brilliance unlike anybody else still to this day. At 48 years old, which is bonkers to think about.
Well, but not everybody has been the best in the world at one time by the time they get to be 48. And that is certainly the case with Tiger Woods. Producer Mark reminded us, to be fair, DeChambeau probably won't make the cut either, and he probably won't. He is in a log jam at 151 right now, which is 3 strokes off the cut line, the projected cut line of 148 right now. So, yeah. Bryson probably going to get a pass and get a go home early tag as well as Bear from last week.
And Rory McIlroy. So we're talking still a major, and we're talking the British Open. It's not a gimme course by any stretch. So we're seeing a lot of guys kind of get chewed up and spit out.
Takes no prisoners.
Yeah, 100%. And the craziest thing of all of that was Shane Lowry is sitting here. We talked about him on the program yesterday, but this was one that absolutely blew my mind. I saw a a graphic that got put out. Daniel Brown, which, cue the Snoop Dogg GIF. I mean, nobody knows who this guy is, but he was 350 to 1 to lead at the end of the first round, and he led yesterday. And there was a photo of a gentleman that put $25 down.
Cash,
won like $7,800 on a $25 wager because Daniel Brown, the English golfer who everybody had to go out and Google yesterday, was leading.
But not everybody.
Yeah, apparently not. Scheffler is sitting there in the top 5. You got to think, he's 5 shots back, but you got to think he'll be lurking. So there are still some boppers, but we're also seeing some big names kind of get chewed up and spit out a little bit.
Schauffele trying to stay around the top, along with Patrick Cantlay, Morikawa, Dustin Johnson, top 10-ish. So
Koepka's in the mix too. I mean, reasonably, and all you need, right, is for Lowry or some of these other guys to go out and have a bad round tomorrow, and you have a decent round, and suddenly you're right back in the mix here.
Yeah, and again, Lowry 66, 69, 135, 2 strokes up on Justin Rose and Daniel Brown, as you mentioned. Again, Scheffler 3 strokes back of Rose and Brown. So it's going to be an interesting next 2 days over there. And if you are top 10, you probably still got a shot, right?
I would think so. This seems to be kind of in the same vein of the U.S. Open in the sense that no lead is ever safe. And don't know a ton about the history of Royal Troon, but usually the courses in Scotland kind of can be pretty grueling. Not fun to play for anybody, let alone if you're trying to really claw back into contention. So no lead is safe, I guess, where I'm going with that, I think, coming into this weekend here.
Okay. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Check back with us Monday when we discuss who emerges. And let's go ahead and go to a break here from the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by this weekend's Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice, Jake Lyman. So stay with us when we come back.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We continue with the weekend update coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And Wade, the rain has materialized here in Franklin, at least. I don't know what P-Town is looking like, but the pavement is wet. I don't know if we got much or if we still are, but it's a little wet out there. Wade, you're on mute.
That may be not a bad thing at this point, but it's looking, because I have bad news. It's looking a little grim down here in Pulaski as well right now.
Well, let's just hope we can keep it together for the next hour and 40 minutes here as we now turn our attention a little north, a little east. The Tidewater area of Virginia is where our next guest is. Jake Lyman, who is sitting in for the vacationing Jeff Hem as the Sounds play-by-play voice. The Sounds start their or restart their schedule, I guess, following the All-Star break with a short series up at Norfolk. And Jake, welcome to the show. Appreciate you taking some time with us.
Yeah, glad I could jump on here in my short little stint here filling in for Jeff. For you as a radio guy, how does that work? I mean, have you done much Sounds stuff to this point this season? How familiar are you with, the cast of characters over there? Last season, I did a little bit more with the Sounds, but I still keep up with them. Last year, I did probably 10 to 12 games for Jeff. This will be my first game tonight. Although I was over there on Sunday and called, I think, an inning and a half because Jeff hit his innings limit for the first half. I still keep up with the team and see kind of all the moves that they're making and some of the big names over here who have been having big seasons. So although this is my first time actually sitting in and calling a full Sounds game this year, I still keep up with how the team's been doing and some of the players.
And you got a road trip out of the deal.
Yes. Yeah. Back-to-back years. I've been able to take the trip out here to Norfolk. So at least it's familiar out here at Harbor Park. Nice ballpark, good area. So excited for tonight.
And a pretty good team, or a pretty talented team anyway. The Orioles AAA affiliate. I know that they have uncharacteristically struggled a little bit, but at the same time, you kind of got to wonder what the Sounds are going to look like in this short series coming out of a stretch where they've been off for like 6 of the last 13 days.
Yeah. Coming out of the All-Star break, you kind of don't know what you're going to see. Sounds were playing pretty well heading into the All-Star break. Had won 8 out of their last 12. So trying to keep that going. They're 2 games back of first place in the second half right now. But you're right, this Orioles team, the Tides at least, they're below 500 on the year, despite having 2 top 15 prospects in baseball sitting towards the top of their order. We'll see Jackson Holliday in the leadoff spot today, number 1 prospect in all of baseball. And then Kobe Mayo is number 15. He's in the 3-hole. So despite the record maybe not showing how talented this team is, it's going to be dangerous for this Sounds pitching staff when they go through that top third of the lineup.
Now, is Jackson Holliday still the number 1 prospect? Because I know he came up and did not perform very well with the big club, went back down. There's been some talk of possibly getting him moved. he's an interesting figure, I would guess, in the Orioles organization at this point.
Yeah, I've seen some outlets have kind of shifted James Wood from the Nationals up to 1, but at least MLB Pipeline still has Holiday as the top prospect. It was tough for him. He went up in April and went, I think I wrote down 2 for 34 with 18 strikeouts. So it didn't go well for him, but he is only 20 years old. And I think if he can get his confidence back up down here, maybe towards the end of the year, he can come up and give them a spark. But you're right. There have been some talks of maybe him getting moved. I know Tarek Skubal in Detroit has at least been floated out there, AL Cy Young favorite, and the Orioles might be the only team with enough firepower to go get him. And I would think Holiday would at least be discussed if that was a deal that was going to get made.
Yeah, that would be certainly a wild transaction considering how well he's been pitching, but also obviously the plethora kind of prospects that the Orioles have. Jake, I got to ask you first and foremost, did you rig this trip up just so you could kind of get back closer to home? I know you're a VTech guy. Like, how much of that kind of played into this, if any?
Well, no, I had no choice. It's just how the schedule worked out. Jeff, I think, was kind of cashing in his trip here at the end of the All-Star break to give him a little bit of an extended time off. So it just worked out that back-to-back years I've been sent to Norfolk. And it's funny, I saw my grandmother still lives in the area, so I saw her earlier, and my sister's coming to the game today. So it is cool that when I have been able to fill in, I get a little closer to home, get to see some family.
And that's what I was going to ask. You know, we talk about the players and, you know, they have all their family and friends and they leave tickets out. You know, nobody really thinks about, does the play-by-play announcer kind of get to come home and leave tickets out for friends and family? So, I mean, this is kind of a chance for you to spread your wings there, right?
See, I did not even ask if I had tickets available. I figured, you know, coming in, only doing 3 games, I didn't want to ask for too much. So my sister is buying her own tickets, but I doubt it's too expensive. Maybe I'll have to Venmo her for them.
You could drop a small transaction. Yeah, we could come across. And I am curious, you know, you kind of keep tabs on them, and how much prep work has Jeff? We know he's a super professional as well. You obviously are fantastic at what you do with Vanderbilt as well. And so how much did Jeff kind of leave out for you, or did he kind of just say, hey, I know what you're capable of, we just want you to do your own thing this go around?
A lot of prep with Jeff came from kind of just making sure equipment and travel and all that stuff. But I think he kind of left the game prep to me. So, you know, spent a lot of time on MILB.com this past week, going through previous stops for some of these guys and what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So, you know, it's a lot of work that goes into it. But, you know, the last 2 or 3 days I've been putting my charts together and we're ready to go.
What was travel like? Did y'all go up last night? You go up this morning?
We went yesterday, thankfully, with everything that's going on.
There you go. There you go. That's good. Yeah. Get up there and get settled in, and then just start the day right there in Norfolk, because I know that sometimes you do have those early morning flights, and oh yeah. Are any flights going out of Nashville this morning? What's the latest you've heard on that?
I think it depends on the airline. We flew Southwest, so I think Southwest might be one of the few airlines that's actually still rolling, but looks like Delta, United, American, I think they're all at least still fighting to get back up and rolling.
I feel for all those folks that went out to Dallas for SEC Media Days and figured they would just sleep one last night in Dallas and then get up this morning and get back to wherever it was that they needed to be, and maybe not. So, yeah, tough travel day. Thanks, Microsoft. Jake Lyman, play-by-play voice this weekend of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Is it as simple as play-by-play, Jake? I mean, obviously you do some Vanderbilt women's basketball, you do some other stuff. The shift from some of your other duties and assignments to this, how big a deal is it?
Yeah, there'll be some rust to shake off, I'm sure, through the first couple of innings. You know, the baseball and basketball are very different when it comes to calling it, just the pacing of, you know, basketball on the radio, when I'm doing Vandy women's games, you're following the ball for 90% of the broadcast and just, calling plays. But here you got to have more stories prepared. You got to be able to describe what's going on between pitches. So I'm sure there'll be some rust to shake off through those first inning or two. But hopefully once we get a couple under our belt, we can get back into a rhythm.
It's interesting too. Go ahead, Mo.
You get to work with one of our favorites here on the show, Teresa Phillips, the former Tennessee State athletics director, does color with you for a lot of Vanderbilt basketball. You'll be by yourself this weekend. In addition to that pacing and the stories and that kind of thing, one-man crew versus two-person crew changes a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a very different dynamic. When I work games with Teresa or anybody else, it's you're trying to find ways to play off them. And, if there is a break in the action in the basketball game, you want to get Teresa's thoughts because obviously she has so much knowledge to go off of. But when it's solo, you're just going. And, you got to know when to lay out and know when to tell your right stories and use your prep and all that stuff. So it is different, but, you kind of can approach it different ways and still be prepared.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to some good broadcasts this weekend. I imagine you kind of have a lot of that prep work laid out maybe for the first game tonight. And then kind of after the first game, the games kind of tell the rest of the story, it sounds like, right? In games 2 and 3, rather.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the prep work has already been done. I think, I'll go through, they'll print game notes here. So I'll go through and write anything down that maybe I missed. But after that, it's updating stats between games and, after you're really just talking about what happened the night before, or, if there's a rehabber or something down for either team or something like that. So, most of the bulk prep of just, hometowns and colleges and where they were drafted and where they've been before, all that's already done and ready to go.
Speaking of colleges, and we kind of tapped into your Virginia roots earlier. Mo and I have been talking about it a lot over the last couple of weeks. The ACC, when you think about Cal and Stanford, does that really still resonate with you? Does it seem like the ACC? What are your thoughts on the realignment in that particular conference?
It's really weird. I think it'll take me seeing the first SEC game for both of the or ACC game for both those teams to really have it sink in. But it's strange to have two California schools in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I don't really know what they're going to do with that. It felt like a move they had to do with all the expansion in the other three major conferences, but who knows how that's going to look. I was at the ACC men's basketball tournament a few years back, like 3 years ago. I can't imagine going to one of those next year in Greensboro, North Carolina, or Washington, D.C., or wherever it is, and you've got Stanford and Cal banners hanging in the rafters and stuff. It doesn't seem real, but we'll have to get used to it.
It was really odd. Somebody posted something on Twitter here not too long ago about Cal painting the ACC logo on its football field, and it's like, stop. That's too big. Maybe just hang a flag or something. Maybe something a little less conspicuous than painting the logo on the field. That's it. It just felt like a little much. But Jake Lyman, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. You talk about prep. Milwaukee doesn't make it very easy to get ready for this team with all of the transactions that they have had. Surprisingly high number of transactions for a team that is playing as well as the Brewers are right now. But there have been a lot of moves, and trying to keep up with who's who and who's where, I would imagine, is a little bit of a challenge regardless of who's behind the mic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Brewers, it's amazing the success that they've had considering how many injuries they've had to deal with. And it does seem like some of those guys are starting to ramp up a little bit. Joe Ross has already made one rehab start down here. He's making another tonight. And I'm sure we'll start to see other rehabbers start to make their way back. So hopefully the Brewers are getting healthier, but for right now, it's just waiting to see those announcements of when guys are starting to get back up to baseball activities. And you hope that they're ready when you get to September and into October.
The Sounds are, as I'm looking through here, they are 11-7 in the second half of the season, which is all the standings reflect. And at the top of the IL West by half a game over Columbus. So interesting with the first half and second half, and how everybody doesn't play everybody, and we've kind of gotten Jeff off onto a rant when we talk about those things, but it's going to be a fun second half here for the Sounds. I would imagine they return home after Sunday's game against Norfolk for a 6-game series against Charlotte, I believe. Is that right, Jay?
Yes. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So make plans to get out to First Horizon. I guess Jeff will be back by Tuesday. Is that the plan, or are you taking them?
That's the plan as far as I've been told.
Gotcha. Well, hey, Jake, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man, and enjoy being back in some familiar territory and getting a few calls in this weekend.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Thank you.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little more baseball of the major league varieties. Stay with us after the break.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 19th, 1996. Ceremonies are held at Centennial Olympic Stadium to open the Atlanta Games. At the conclusion of the Olympics, the stadium will be reconstructed and become Turner Field, home of the Braves from 1997 to 2016. That was this day in Braves history. Slow day.
Ted.
Yeah, the TED. It's kind of amazing that a stadium became obsolete in 20 years.
It is pretty wild to think about. And then the Georgia Dome, kind of right around that same time, was famously blown up in viral video fame. And man, a lot of good games growing up. For a person that's not a Braves fan, I've been to all 3 Atlanta Braves stadiums, which is kind of wild. And after having been to the newest one, I mean, I kind of like the TED the most out of all of them. I just feel like the vibes and just kind of the ambiance kind of was just pretty solid. And I was kind of sad when it kind of was, disassociated, as it were, because you're right. I mean, it didn't seem like it was around very long.
It didn't seem 20 years. I mean, I enjoyed the TED. And there was a little restaurant out the back, the third base side, I guess, the bullpen over there, that you could get into after the game. And it's a nice little spot as well. So I missed that, because by the time you come out of games at the Battery, if you don't know where you're going, and I'm still not familiar enough with the area, post-game meals get to be a bit of a challenge, and that's something that we'll be trying to address again this weekend. So, wish us luck.
I will say this, Mo. One thing about the TED was my last time I went there, I think it was like 2016, 2015 maybe, but I did try, and it's called the TED Dog, and it's known as the Everything Dog. And I found the menu listing. Where else in the world could you get a item that is a foot-long hot dog that features French fries, chili, nacho chips, beer cheese, and jalapenos? However, it's topped with popcorn and then drizzled with Coca-Cola infused barbecue sauce and served on a pretzel bun. If that doesn't just sound like heaven on earth, I don't know what is. I think my stomach was sore for about 5 days after I ate that thing.
Man, that's
I love trying all the wild and quirky things at baseball stadiums, and I said, yeah,
that certainly fit.
$16 for a hot dog. I've spent $16 on dumber things. I might as well try this. And so but it didn't sit very well. It was enjoyable in the moment, but man, it's looking back. So that's kind of my lasting memory of my last trip to Turner Field.
Yeah, that would make an impact for sure. 6:20 tonight, Nashville time, 7:20 in Atlanta. Vandy boy, Smyrna legend, Sonny Gray, towing the rubber for St. Louis, 9-6 with a 3.34 ERA. The youngster, Spencer Schwellenbach, 3-4 with a 4.43, taking the ball for the Braves in this one. So it's the vet and the young gun squaring off down at Truist Field tonight, Truist Park, excuse me. So looking forward to that one. Again, 9:10 tonight out on the West Coast. By the end of this one, the Houston Astros could be in first place in the American League West Division.
Crazy to think about, as poorly as they started the year. Texas got off to a really fast start. Seattle was kind of that second team by default, and then Texas kind of fell off pretty quickly. And Seattle's kind of been having tabs on the division for the last 2.5 months, it feels like. But sitting there one game back. I mean, Houston's played pretty well. We've talked about it on this show recently, and the Mariners hadn't been playing exactly great. So this is a chance for Houston to really kind of maybe flex its muscle this weekend.
Hunter Brown getting the ball for the Astros, 7-6 with a 4.39 earned run average. It's Luis Castillo for the Mariners, 8-9, 3.53. Promises to be, well, theoretically speaking, a well-pitched contest.
Yeah. and staying up late to maybe catch this one tonight, you would think that, yeah, it'll be relatively low scoring, which obviously means that we're looking for like a 12-11 type ball game that goes past midnight tonight, most likely.
Station camp graduate Chase Burns, the number 2 pick overall in this week's MLB draft, has signed, getting a $9.25 million bonus out of the Cincinnati Reds, which is the highest signing bonus in MLB draft history. Paul Skeens signed for 9.2 last year. So Chase Burns getting ready to get to work. The Wake Forest right-hander, after spending his first 2 years up at UT, again drafted by the Reds, number 2 overall, between Travis Bazzara of Oregon State and Charlie Condon of Georgia. And apparently Cincinnati was really excited to see Burns not go number 1, because they jumped on him and before the week ended got him inked. So that's a pretty big deal, I would think.
Yeah. And, you know, I love how all this kind of breaks down. I love the meetings. You know, hey, we're going to offer you $9.2 million. And the agent comes back and says, I don't know. That sounds exactly like the number that Skeens got last year. How about we do 9.25?
Yeah, we want more. We
just want a little more. So a nice feather in the cap for not only Chase, obviously, but the agent as well. Good negotiation tactic there.
And with that type money being tossed around, and as quickly as Paul Skeens moved for Pittsburgh, which wasn't as quick as some people would have liked, actually, you got to wonder, how quickly can Chase Burns get to the majors with the Reds? And I don't know enough about their pitching situation, but clearly he is very highly thought of. He's the number 2 pick overall. Feel like he's got 2 plus pitches that can play already at that level. So I don't know what it will be that will dictate how quickly he moves, but certainly will be interesting to keep an eye on. Averaged nearly 2 strikeouts per inning at Wake, with an upper 90s fastball, a swing and miss bullet slider, and a curveball. He also has a seldom used changeup. So got a 3-4 pitch mix that he can rely on, and shouldn't come as a surprise if he becomes the first pitcher in this class to make their big league debut. So
yeah, seems like he's got all the tools. And you're right. I'm wondering, you know, how soon will we potentially see him? Seems like Skeens had a little more fanfare. I don't know if that plays any way into this, but the court of public opinion was kind of pushing for him a little earlier, like you suggested, which makes me wonder, without Googling, I'm wondering what's the fastest that a pitcher, I guess, or even a position player. I mean, what is the fastest? You can get called up in the same season later, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah, there's nothing that
things were crazy enough. You could make it later this year.
Well, I mean, there have been guys who have gone straight to this show. So I mean, it can happen. Again, I just don't know what Cincinnati's situation is, how quickly they want to try to get him up, whether they want to, you know, see him, you know, kind of progress to some degree through the organization. They might want to kind of monitor his workload, considering what he's done at the collegiate level this year. You don't want to throw too much on him too quickly. So typically teams tend to err on the side of caution as far as that goes. But at the same time, if you've got a talent like that and they can make a difference, and the Central, you know, if Milwaukee cools off, if some of these injuries, or if the injuries continue and they start to catch up to them, you know, if Milwaukee comes back to the pack, Cincinnati may feel like they've got a shot maybe an extra arm doesn't hurt. So again,
Yeah, and as I'm Googling this, the Tennessee fans will be upset with me. Part of this was due to COVID. There was no minor league season, but Garrett Crochet hopped straight from Tennessee straight to the White Sox later that year. He was the most recent guy. But yeah, it'll be fascinating, right? Because the Reds, seems like that Central outside of the Cubs, who I believe are already getting clobbered today, have got potential aspirations if the Brewers kind of leave the door ajar a little bit.
yeah, you'd feel like St. Louis has got a shot. Pittsburgh with Skeens may have a shot, and maybe Cincinnati feels like they've got a shot as well. Top of the 6, Arizona 5, Cubs nothing. So, to your point, we talk about the athletics on this show from time to time, just because it's such a fascinating situation with a team leaving town. Bill Chaikin of the Los Angeles Times wrote an article earlier this week where he kind of checked in with some baseball players from Las Vegas in terms of what they felt like the athletics to Vegas looks like. Diamondbacks closer Paul Sewald didn't hold anything back. I think it's a terrible idea. The whole thing, I feel, is going to be an abject disaster. So, Sewald skeptical of the support, considering the Raiders and the Golden Knights already being there, and the Aces, who play in the same season as the baseball team, have sold out their entire season. And you could get an NBA team into Vegas before the Athletics actually get there for the 2028 campaign. So got a lot really working against them in terms of this move. And again, if that's what some Major League Baseball players are saying who have some familiarity with the situation, Bryce Harper, who is a Vegas native, says he'd rather see an expansion team that could build its own history rather than an established team like the Athletics. But to be fair, Rangers pitching coach Mike Maddox says, I think it would be great to have a big league team, whether it's a team that moves or an expansion team. But building a fan base and that kind of thing is a concern. And as we've talked at other times on this show, just the reception from, heck, the mayor,
right,
kind of makes you wonder just how solid ground the Athletics are going to be on in Vegas, should they get there. So,
yeah,
meanwhile,
like you said, they just got a lot of things going against them. It feels
they really
like.
do. Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't feel like the red carpet is being rolled out for them. So, and not only are there issues in Vegas, but it seems there are issues between Oakland and Vegas. There's an article on CBS Sports. A's temporary Sacramento ballpark will have hydration element because of summer heat, Manfred says. Apparently they are going to install an artificial surface at Sutter Health Park, and there will be some sort of a cooling aspect to that artificial turf surface just because of the heat at Sacramento. Daily highs from July 1st through 9th averaged 106 degrees. Similar temperatures are forecast through July 25th. Temps have reached as high as 115 degrees, and Oakland and the Sacramento River Cats, the AAA affiliate of the Giants, are going to share this ballpark. So there's going to be, between the two of them, over 186 days, you're going to have 153 games.
Whoa.
There are going to be days where they are both going to be there at the same time.
That's the crazy part to me.
And I don't know in those situations who gets the day game and who gets the night game.
How does that play out, right? Yeah, but I mean, do we do rock, paper, scissors? How does this go? And I'm also really for the first time wondering. This really was a bigger deal when the Golden Knights came in their first season, maybe even their second. But there's a little bit of a thing called the Vegas flu that a lot of teams that came in from out of town suffered from. And, we know the baseball boys like to party a little bit. And I'm just visualizing after a night out in Vegas, and then you go out and try and play baseball in 106 degrees. We'll have to remember that if and when this stadium comes to full fruition. We might be onto an angle that we could work maybe in our financial favor for the visitors once they get in, because I'm just having a tough time visualizing wanting to go out and do anything in 106 degrees, let alone play baseball after a night out at the Aria.
Absolutely. We talked yesterday about the 2025 schedule being announced. The A's first ever game in Sacramento will follow 4 games to open the season at Seattle. They will play the Cubs in a 3-game series in Sacramento beginning on March 31st. So, again, that'll bear watching. Now, I guess maybe the saving grace there is I'm not sure how early the Pacific Coast League / the AAA season begins. So they may get a little relief early on in terms of that shared facility there at Sutter Health Park, but that's going to be tough to, negotiate that. Again, 153 games in 186 days between the River Cats of the Pacific Coast League and the Athletics of the American League. So that's
good luck to the schedule makers.
Oof. I don't know how that works favorably for anybody, but yeah, better them than us. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for hour number 2, it's the grab bag, and there's a lot of football stuff in it, but it's not all football. So stay tuned when we return to the Lee Company studios after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Our number 2 of the weekend update here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And this is the grab bag. And as I mentioned, a lot of football in this segment, but I want to start, Wade, with a potential sign and trade in the NBA that ultimately Russell Westbrook is going to wind up in Denver, it sounds like. What's that mean?
You know, that's going to be a real big question. And depending on kind of who you ask, we saw some of this chatter coming out yesterday, shortly after we went off the air, and it looked like potentially he was going to maybe go to the Jazz, but it looks like that obviously has now shifted, and he's going to join a team that won it all 2 years ago. And for me personally, I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out. One of my very good friends is a huge Nuggets fan, originally from the area, and he point blank said, first things first, I do not like and have not liked Russ Westbrook, but it's one of those situations now that he's on my team, I view him in a different lens. And he said the key thing is that Russ was one of the first real superstars that kind of befriended Jokic when he came in, you know, as a unsung second-round draft pick by the Nuggets. And so I don't know if that has any kind of bearing in terms of how this move came about, but it seems like those two get along well. And if you're keeping the big man happy, that certainly has got to be a good thing, right?
Certainly. It appears that the Clippers are trading Westbrook to the Jazz, as you mentioned, and Utah is then going to agree on a buyout that would allow Westbrook to sign with the Joker and the Nuggets. Chris Dunn agreed to a deal with the Clippers as an unrestricted free agent as part of the sign and trade. Clips also send a second-round pick and cash to Utah. I don't understand how you trade for somebody and then buy out their contract and let them walk. Is that to give you more flexibility in the free agent market, or what is the gain for, say, the Jazz in that deal?
Yeah, and the NBA is the one sport that the contracts and the assets, we hear so much that term just always gets thrown around, is just kind of mind-boggling. I can't make much sense of it, but yeah, it seems kind of as if a situation where the Jazz are freeing up either cap space or freeing up a roster spot sometimes where they can maybe bring in a guy on either a two-way deal or a very, very limited contract to kind of just give them more flexibility in the future. And when we're talking about Utah, they are definitely a team that's looking for the future more than they are now. So presumably that's a move that gives them a little more flexibility going forward.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, former Georgia standout, signed as a free agent with the Magic. That kind of opens up a role for Westbrook. doesn't sound like they're necessarily the same type player, but it's a little bit of a fit. Meanwhile, the Clippers, I guess, are really kind of going through a transition with George leaving and now Westbrook as well.
Yeah, the Clippers kind of in flux, and they're going to be the interesting team, one of the interesting teams certainly in the West to kind of keep your eyes on. And I'm honestly not real sure where they end up, because losing George is, he's a household name, but he's obviously got a lot of wear and tear on that body. And you're wondering, how much in terms of real production are you losing? So that is a big question mark. And then kind of one other point on the Russ West situation is this guy's been traded 5 times, which is the most I read by an MVP ever, which is crazy. But I think he's kind of oddly reached kind of a state of peace with where he's at in the league. And if he buys in, I can see him being a solid little pickup for the Nuggets, who obviously, as you mentioned, lose Caldwell Pope, and Reggie Jackson, I think, also left, who was kind of their backup point guard. So if he buys in, this is kind of a shrewd bit of business, as they like to say, for the Nuggets perhaps here.
5 trades for Westbrook. This is the second straight year he's been traded to Utah. The Lakers sent him there last year at the deadline. Utah waived him 11 days later, and then he signed with the Clips. So I guess he's somewhat familiar with Salt Lake City.
Yeah, he's
as familiar as you can get in 11 days. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got a little working knowledge of the area, and then definitely in terms of star power. But the Grizzlies made a trade today too, as well. Mo, they finally got out of the contract with Zaire Williams, who was their 2021 top 10 pick. They're going to ship him up to the Nets, and kind of like we discussed with, what does this move really do? Mm-hmm. What it's really doing for Memphis is it's kind of freeing up some more cap space, because they're trying to get Luke Kennard, formerly of the Clippers, back as one of their maybe perhaps top shooters. And so kind of a sneaky bit of business. Some of these moves, obviously we gravitate toward the big headline grabbing moves, but some of these transactional moves in terms of cap space are the ones that end up kind of getting the GMs and the math nerds all excited. And so this seems like it's one of those that Memphis has pulled today as well.
We were talking off air before the show. The media on hand for Southeastern Conference Football Media Days this week in Dallas have predicted Georgia as the 2024 conference champion. Presumably they would defeat Texas in the SEC championship game. Georgia and Texas are picked 1-2 in the 16-team league, just ahead of Alabama and Ole Miss. LSU is 5th, Missouri 6th, Tennessee and Oklahoma round out the top half of the predicted order of finish. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU each received first place votes in this poll. The only other 2 teams to receive first place votes were South Carolina, which is picked 12th. The Gamecocks received 1 first place vote, and live from West End, your Vanderbilt Commodores picked 16th overall, but pulled 2 first place votes in the poll.
That's
I don't like getting into policing people's poll votes and that kind of thing. If you don't mind making a spectacle of yourself, go right ahead. The fact that it's somewhat anonymous, I guess, helps with that. But all due respect, I don't know how serious we can take you when you're casting a first place vote in this 16-team Southeastern Conference for Vanderbilt.
Yeah. lot of questions about that poll. I'd like to see the rest of that person, their poll, obviously. And I was going to ask
those people.
Yeah, those two folks for sure.
Those people, yeah.
And I was going to ask you, you're tapped in, and you got a lot of, maybe they came from the Nashville area. You haven't caught wind of who these people might be yet, have you?
I have not. I
don't know that they're going to be rushing to reveal themselves, I would imagine.
I can't imagine anybody stepping up and saying, as Ernest T used to say on the Andy Griffin's show, I don't think it'll be a reveal quite like that. But
that's one that probably they did it. Obviously we were assuming kind of as a little bit of a joke, and they might put it on their Instagram close friends. They're not putting it on the full Instagram feed, I don't think. That's one they don't want word to really, really get out, but they kind of wanted to have a little laugh at it. It sounds like,
in this day and time, there were, it looks like, roughly 200 votes cast. I don't imagine those were done with paper. I wonder if somebody just accidentally clicked wrong. I mean, if it's a drop-down menu and you accidentally hit Vanderbilt instead of Texas A&M, that would be the team ahead of them if it was alphabetical order. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that happens, but
maybe. And this begs the question we were also discussing. Vanderbilt got 8 votes to win the East in last year's preseason poll. Which is more egregious? The fact they get 2 this year, or the fact that they got 8 to win the East last year?
2 to win the conference or 8 to win the East? That's a good question, especially with Georgia lurking as they were last year.
Hey, and I will tell you this, too. We talked that the other team that was in this equation, South Carolina, that is somebody that has been playing the college football game the last couple of days, because
you can see how they could be swayed, huh?
South Carolina's got that sophomore, Nick Harbor, who's a stud receiver, and he's got 99 speed on the game. And I guarantee, I'm almost willing to bet that's somebody that's played that game and said, oh, yeah, I see what South Carolina could be number 1 in the SEC if this were the digital gridiron. I'm almost willing to bet, because, other than that, I don't really have much of a leg to stand on there, because they're kind of slightly above Vanderbilt in the pecking order here, but they still somehow picked up a first-place vote.
But you can see how it could happen, huh?
Perhaps,
for South Carolina.
Yeah. That I buy a little more than it's the only other explanation, like you said, for Vanderbilt maybe is the alphabetical order, or a computer malfunction perhaps got the better of somebody.
The preseason all SEC teams were announced today as well. Despite not being picked as a championship game participant, Alabama leads the way with 16 players on the first, second, and third teams. Texas with 13. Georgia has the most first team selections, including obviously quarterback Carson Beck and running back Trevor Etienne leading the way for the Bulldogs. So Tennessee puts 2 on the first team. Cooper Mays, the center, and defensive lineman James Pierce. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss is a first-team defensive lineman, which is exactly what he was paid to do. Former Pearl Cone standout Barian Brown is a first-team return specialist for Kentucky, and deservedly so, by the way.
I voted for him last year in the preseason poll.
Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers was named to the second team. Your third team quarterback is Jalen Milroe. All 3, by the way, among the top 6 Heisman Trophy candidates, according to FanDuel.com, as we referred to yesterday. So,
yeah, not surprising. Hey, that also reminds me, Mo. They were held in Dallas. Are we a little surprised? I kind of am a little bit. Georgia had a massive. I thought Texas might get a little more first place vote action. They're going to be good, and the media days were held in Dallas. Oklahoma got 0 votes, and Texas, I kind of thought they might get a few more, just maybe even from some local, kind of a homer bias almost a little bit.
27 first place votes for Texas, 165 for Georgia.
Feels like it would have just been a little closer to me. Maybe I'm
You
wrong.
would think, but maybe that's just a tribute to where Georgia is right now and the talent that they've got down there. So maybe even folks in Texas couldn't find their way there. So
they're going to be loaded. Georgia, that is. Texas will be loaded, of course, but yeah, Georgia. I mean, we're not really going to be surprised if the Bulldogs end up after a quick little 1-year hiatus, they get back to winning titles again.
Sure. This probably took longer to become official than some people would have thought, but Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium goes into effect September 7th when Alabama hosts South Florida,
who they almost lost to last year, famously. Funnily enough, the game that kind of turned their season around with Saban benching Milroe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I had heard zero chatter about this, and it makes sense. But now I'm like you. I'm like, yeah, it kind of feels like this should have been a no-brainer, and it feels like it kind of should have been done sooner, or announced at least sooner than today, right?
Almost immediately.
Yeah. The second he retires, the second we go ahead and just get the paint ready down there.
Yeah. So it was announced today that will take place again on September 7th during that South Florida game. Obviously, Bryant-Denny Stadium, the facility was built in 1929 and was originally Denny Field for the then current school president. Obviously, Bryant was added in 1975 while Coach Bryant was Coach Bryant, actually, and worked another 7-8 years, I guess, afterwards.
That's a big flex right there.
Yeah. When you're taking the team out onto the field and into the stadium that has your name on it, that's.
Imagine the halftime speeches. Hey, you're not going to embarrass me on my stadium. Yeah.
There you go.
Man.
Yeah. Saban 292, 71, and 1 over his career. 7 national championships at Alabama. He was 201 and 29, including 117 and 18 in conference play. But he did lose to Louisiana Monroe. So
lost to Monroe, and that tie, threw me for a loop. And Google tells me that you got to go back to 95. I'm sure everybody remembers Michigan State at Purdue apparently ended in a 35-35 tie, and that was the last year that ties existed. So
before overtime,
I just love that. Yeah, he's got the one little tie on the record there. So
that's
the
wild.
Monroe.
Yeah,
that one's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one to get over, and he's not going to get a chance to get that one back, obviously. So yeah. We talked about Utah State a couple of weeks ago and their suspension of Blake Anderson. Well, the other shoe has fallen. Utah State has fired Blake Anderson for violations related to noncompliance with Title IX. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And it kind of felt inevitable, right? Just it seemed like there was so much smoke, and once you kind of start reading certain headlines and you start reading certain details, it only felt like a matter of time before it was the end of the road, unfortunately, for Coach Anderson there.
Yeah, this is only going to go one way, apparently, and the way it went was that. So they have a interim coach, Nate Dreiling, I believe, has been named in the interim following the suspension and now firing of Blake Anderson, former coach at Arkansas State, by the way. So let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by the voice of Tennessee baseball, John Wilkerson. looking forward to this. So stay tuned when we come back.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
The update continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton along with Wade Neely, and we are joined now by the voice of the 2024 National Championship University of Tennessee volunteer baseball team, John Wilkerson. John, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Great to always catch up with you, Mo, and Wade. Nice to join you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking time today.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, a couple of things. There were a couple of things that we wanted to get you on for. One, as disappointed as you are, I'm disappointed for you that you will not be in Cooperstown this weekend for the Baseball Hall of Fame induction of former Tennessee standout Todd Helton. Going into the hall along with Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, and longtime manager Jim Leland this weekend. Obviously, you got to call some of his games when he played. I don't know if you had him in the booth with you at any point since, but obviously the two of you guys go way back.
He was gracious enough to jump online with us this year after he threw out the first pitch for the first time, and that was against LSU in that weekend. So he joined us from down in the Tennessee locker room, and that would be the closest that he's been to being up in the booth. But great to catch up with Todd. It was really something to see him kind of usher in a new era of Tennessee baseball. My first 2 years were the 2 years preceding his freshman year. So it was the last 2 years at Lower Hudson Field, and then the doors open, the gates open, I should say, at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. And that was either the house that Rod Delmonico built or the house that Todd built, or Rod and Todd, but
Mhm.
that was it. Tennessee won 3 straight SEC tournaments with the Eastern Division tournaments that they used to have back then, won back-to-back SEC championships. And again, he just lifted the expectations as to what could be accomplished on the diamond in the orange and white.
That's kind of where it started, I guess. And John, when I heard somebody say once that Frank Thomas was the only player from the Southeastern Conference in the Baseball Hall of Fame, it just blew my mind. The fact that Todd just becomes the second out of this conference is really kind of wild to me.
I would agree. When you take a look at the history of the conference, I mean, it goes back to 1933. There have been incredible baseball players that have come here through the decades, but there's just one until tomorrow. I mean, actually Sunday, that is in. And so I do think that number is going to grow pretty quickly. But it is something that kind of stands out. And it's something that obviously Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the conference, is very pleased to see that number double as of this weekend.
Double, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be quite the show, I guess, on Sunday when Todd gets recognized up there, and looking forward to that. It's just part of what's really been a great year for Tennessee baseball this year, I guess.
Without question. And was catching up with Larry Simcox, a longtime Tennessee assistant, and he said, just take a look at these last few weeks, because what you had was the last out recorded in Omaha. Tennessee wins the national championship, its first ever. And then after that, you kind of make your way into the draft where you have 5 players selected in the first 3 rounds. You have Tony Vitello named the Baseball America Coach of the Year. And now you have Todd Helton going into the Hall of Fame. It really is a remarkable run that it would be tough for any team to say it's equaled that. And when you throw in Tennessee winning 60 games for the first time ever for any SEC team, that's also another significant feather in the cap. So you would be hard pressed to find any stretch of 3 weeks where any SEC baseball team could say it fared better.
60 wins. I mean, that's a pretty amazing number, but at the same time, again, when you talk about the Southeastern Conference and some of the teams and some of the talent that you've seen come through here, it's kind of hard to grasp that nobody has ever done that before.
It is. And of course, you go back just 2 years ago when Tennessee had 57 wins after its first win against Notre Dame in the Super Regional, and then didn't get any further. It was the first time the Vols had ever been ranked number 1. They essentially spent the entire conference campaign as the top team in the country, and they just failed to advance. That team went 57-9, which is still just astronomical. And you can point to it and make an argument that it was the best team in terms of what it did offensively, defensively, and on the mound. It would stand up as comparable with any other team ever. It's just they didn't win a championship. They won 2 SEC titles, but they didn't get the big title. And so for that reason, this is one. It's kind of like a footnote. But for this team this year to kind of have that same similar path. They lost 1 SEC series. They lost back-to-back games, dropping their opener in terms of the conference schedule at Alabama. And then they didn't lose another series. 4 times they lost the first game in a weekend. Not once did they lose that series. And so this group of players was so good at if it went great for them the day before, didn't matter. If it went bad for them the day before, didn't matter. It was all about what's happening today. And that's what made this team so remarkable.
Yeah, John, and that's you summed it up best. It seems like they just had almost a very business-like approach, the way they approach. To me, an outsider, it seemed like that this season. And I'm curious, kind of the same question, but 2 different ways. At what point during the whole course of the season did you particularly think, hey, this is a team that definitely could win it all? And then maybe while you're out in Omaha, did you think, was there a particular moment where you said, okay, now that either they've battled this little bit of adversity or they've gotten past this hump, whatever that may have been, was there a moment out in Omaha where you thought the same thing, that, okay, now they're definitely going to win it all?
In terms of the regular season, they lost back-to-back games to drop that opening weekend. Then in the second game against Ole Miss, they lose a lead late, which they almost have never done over the last couple of years. But they wind up playing a rubber match on Sunday against the Rebels. Then the next Thursday, or excuse me, not the next Thursday, the next series against Georgia, they get run ruled for the first time ever. Bulldogs just spanked them 16-2. Tennessee then saw Georgia jump on them with both feet the next night, but Tennessee came back. They won that game 16-11, and then on Sunday, a team they had given up 27 runs to in back-to-back games did not allow a single run. They shut out Georgia to win the series 7-0. Xander Seacrest shut out the Georgia Bulldogs for 6 innings. Him being a Georgia kid, that's one of the things you really appreciate. But that was in the regular season. It was like, I really appreciated just how that weekend turned within the span of about 54 hours. And I like the makeup of the team with the way they handled that. And then the series went at Kentucky. They have the lead for the better part of game 1. Wildcats get the first one, and then they have a record crowd the next day, and Tennessee jumps on them. I think it was 5 runs in the first inning, and they really beat up a starter who had been so good for the Big Blue. And then you saw Christian Moore do several things that just made him as good a player as you saw anywhere in the nation this year. He was, I think, the 7th ball to hit 3 home runs in a game, and he was the first to do it on the road. But Tennessee just found a way to win that series with that 13-11 win, and so that was probably the last hurdle to clear. And then in Omaha, you're down 9-4 at one point to Florida State. You close it to 9-7. You're then down 11-7 late. You get a run in the 8th, and then those 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th. When they found a way to stay in the winner's bracket after, it looked like there was no way they were going to get a win over the Seminoles. That was where, hey, you win this game, you've got a really good chance to win it all, because that just tells you it's going to be really tough to pin down that last out on this team.
You had to get them out 27 times, didn't you, John?
100%.
Yeah. John Wilkerson, the voice of Tennessee baseball, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. John, you mentioned Christian Moore and the ways and the times that he showed up. Second team All-American Christian Moore, by the way. But he was obviously out in front in a lot of those moments, but clearly he wasn't the only one.
No, he wasn't. You know, he winds up winning the Triple Crown in regards to just conference games only. But then as you get deeper into the season, I mean, he's leading Tennessee in those Triple Crown categories. I found it so appropriate that when all was said and done, it was Christian Moore who led the team in home runs, which he set a new single season record. Blake Burke wound up leading the team in hitting with how he finished the year out in Omaha in those final 6 games. And then Dylan Dreiling, who had started and had the upper hand in terms of the team lead and runs batted in for the better part of the year. And then SEMO exploded. But Dylan Dreiling, with his heroics, being the most outstanding player in the College World Series, I just thought it was so appropriate that he wound up reclaiming the lead and runs batted in. So just to showcase the depth of this team, it was SEMO for home runs, it was Blake Burke for batting average, and it was Dylan Dreiling for runs batted in. And it really was, I mean, 1-9, as you mentioned. It wasn't just 27 outs. It was, you had to make sure that there wasn't somebody in the heart of the order, bottom of the order, or leading things off that wasn't going to be the one that's a difference maker.
Being based out of Columbia, we have to say at this point that while SEMO led in home runs, Blake led in batting average, and Dreiling led in RBIs, Kavaris Tears was top 4 in all 3 of those categories, and scored 73 runs.
Well, 100%. And you take a look, and what he and Dylan Dreiling did was just incredibly special because I believe it was 7 home runs, 20 runs batted in for Dylan. And I think it was 2 home runs last year for KT. And for Kavaris to do what he did. And Redmond Walsh showcased an incredible story. As you go back to 2022 and Tennessee's playing at Ole Miss, both teams are kind of ranked number 1 at the time. And Drew Gilbert had forgotten a bat. So there was a parent, I think it might have been Redmond's dad, who was going to swing by Lindsey Nelson and pick up the bat and get it on down to Oxford so that Drew would have it for the weekend. Lo and behold, it's about midnight as he's making his pass on campus, and there's Kavaris Tears still hitting. I mean, he's hitting at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. He wasn't on the travel roster for that series, and that's how hard he was working. And to know what he did, not just to improve himself as an outstanding contributor in the batter's box, to make himself not just a plus defender, but an all defensive team selection. And then also the dedication he showed in remaking himself as an individual and working with the team strength coach and nutritionist. He put as much effort into how he transformed himself from last year to this year as anybody else on the team. And for him to solidify right field or center field, where he played when Hunter Ensley got banged up for a couple of nights out in Omaha, it just showed you that he's got a lot of versatility, and the Padres have definitely got somebody special in Kavares Tears.
John, when you have a team like Tennessee has had this year, again, 60 wins, 8 guys drafted in the first 8 rounds of the draft, it feels like a step back would be almost inevitable. But as I track, guys that decided not to make themselves available for the draft, guys who aren't going to sign, and guys that they've been able to recruit, it doesn't seem like Tony Vitello is ready to take that step back for 25.
Well, it won't be for lack of trying, that's for sure. I think they have full faith in the guys that returned from last year to this year, because you can go back to 2022. You had 2 freshmen, one Blake Burke, the other Christian Moore. They split time based on who was the right-handed pitcher, or whether it was a right-handed pitcher versus a lefty, as who was going to be the DH. Each wound up with double-digit home runs. And I think that Tennessee does a really good job of developing players. Now, that doesn't mean they won't have to reach to the portal as they have and bring in some key pieces. But at the same time, I just think this staff has earned the benefit of the doubt. They've, for the first time ever, made back-to-back trips to the College World Series. They finished their season in Omaha now 3 of the last 4 years. And that's just remarkable, because you just had never seen anything like that with this program before. So there is some really good talent that's coming in. They will be young in some spots, and they will have to really see if guys can't learn as they go in terms of the peaks and valleys that you might encounter, especially in SEC play. But again, I just think with the continuity that this staff has had, with Tony Vitello having Frank Anderson and Josh Elander along for every step that he's taken in Knoxville, I just think this is a staff that you wouldn't bet against.
Yeah, it seems like they have not only produced at a high level, now climbing the summit, as it were, but it seems they're not, as Mo has often said on this show, they're not resting on their laurels, which is going to be fascinating to see. John, what will your final take-home memory? I love the story you just shared about Kavares a moment ago. What will be your kind of lasting memory of this epic Vols team that you got a chance to cover so often this year?
I think it'll go back to what I said earlier, and that's just how unimpressed they were with everything they did. I mean, they did stuff that no Tennessee team had done, and then they also did things that no other team in the Southeastern Conference had done. I mean, they wind up losing 13 games out of 73. You had 4 guys that essentially you could have pointed to any one of them, whether it be Kavares Tears, Dylan Dreiling, Christian Moore, or Blake Burke, that exceeded what was the previous record for games played in a season. Matt Whitley played 70 in 1995 when Todd Helton and company went to the College World Series. But you had 4 guys that exceeded that this year. There was such a camaraderie with this team that it was something that they instilled from the get-go, because the 2023 team, they had a couple of bumps in the road where they didn't gel immediately. But as soon as guys arrived on campus, whether it was from the junior college ranks, or it was from the portal, or from high school making that transition to college, they went to the pool, they went to the movies, they just did a bunch of things together. So this was a really tight group. It didn't matter what your background was or how long you had been with the team, you were a part of it. And everybody was ready when their name was called. And everybody was able to produce, unlike anybody had collectively that we had seen before. So I just think that everybody rowing in the same direction is something that really separates this team from any of the outstanding groups of talent that we'd seen previously.
John, how do you pack for 2 weeks in Omaha?
Yeah, well, you make sure. My whenever it's going to Hoover for the SEC tournament or on a much broader scale, just make sure that you indeed take clean socks and underwear for every single day that's possible. Then you have the chance to go ahead and wash this polo shirt or that polo shirt. So I think you go half on the number of polo shirts and T-shirts. You go half on, and not even that in terms of the number of different, whether it be shorts or pants. But just make sure that you've got fresh socks, fresh underwear for every single unique day that you have, and then the rest you can kind of get a laundry going.
There you go. Travel tips from John Wilkerson. John, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man, and always great catching up with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure being on Main Street. Sure did enjoy the invite anytime.
Thank you,
John.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's the weekend update. It's the final segment of the week. So come back, and Wade and I will tell you what we're looking forward to between now and Monday.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
It is the final segment of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It's the weekend update. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And this evening, Arena Bowl 33 is scheduled. Is scheduled to be played at American Dream in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Now, there is an article from Wednesday in the Albany Times-Union where apparently there was some question as to whether or not this game was actually going to be played, which makes perfectly good sense for the season that the Arena Football League has had this year. Something circulated on social media earlier in the week, questioning whether the Albany Firebirds and the Billings Outlaws would actually be meeting at 5:30, which is 4:30 here. So at the bottom of the next hour, that game is set to kick off.
Scheduled to kick off.
Scheduled to kick off. Yes. Apparently someone was reporting that there had been a mismanagement of funds that had put the game in question. So, I mean, stay tuned. Here in about 45 minutes, I guess we'll know one way or the other. But again, Albany and Billings are slated to play in that ball game. Billings, of course, defeating Nashville 35-32 in a nail biter in last weekend's semifinals. So you got the top two teams when all was said and done, but this is a league that started with 16 teams and got 8 across the finish line. So I guess they feel pretty good about those 8 and, trying to build around that for 2025, but this will certainly be something that bears watching, how the Arena Football League in this iteration gets to the 2025 season and how they get through Arena Bowl 33.
Yeah, and it's only fitting, like you said, that we had a little drama, a little intrigue. This is kind of like a plot from a movie almost, that the clock is ticking and we still don't know necessarily if the game is going to go off. And you're right. The Wikipedia for the 2024 Arena Football League season is informative, but it's also kind of sad. As you mentioned, when you get down toward the bottom, they do scratch off a lot of the programs or a lot of the franchises that were kind of set to really take part. And I give them props though, because they did kind of stabilize it. I don't know where this would rank on Jeff Fisher's all-time career highlight list now as the AFL commissioner, but I think he's done it. It seems like a solid job of kind of at least keeping the plane afloat or airborne until we can maybe guide this into the Arena Bowl tonight.
You can see it on CBS Sports Network. Again, 5:30 Eastern time kickoff. That's 4:30 from where we originate. So I'll check that out. If you're looking for streaming options, apparently Fubo, DirecTV, Hulu Live, and YouTube will all be streaming the contest as well. Again, it's Albany and Billings in Arena Bowl 33. Less drama. WNBA All-Star Game tomorrow in Phoenix.
Well, some drama, depending on who you ask.
Oh, some drama, but not nearly as much drama as will they or won't they play. Cheryl Miller, the founding coach of the Phoenix Mercury, will lead Team WNBA in this All-Star Game matchup against Team USA at Phoenix. So a triumphant return for Coach Miller. Their first head coach and general manager from 97 to 2000 led them to the league semifinals in that first season, the league finals in the second season, where they lost to the then ultra dominant Houston Comets. She resigned at the end of the 2000 season. Cheryl Reeve of the Minnesota Lynx is, or formerly of the Minnesota Lynx, is the Team USA coach. Should be fun. 7:30 start, we said.
Yep, on ABC. So a big platform to cash in on what has been a big season thus far for the WNBA. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to, seeing them on that big stage. And you mentioned some drama, not as much drama, but some drama. Continue.
Oh, just in the sense that, Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark are neither one going to participate in the 3-point contest. And as we've often discussed, anytime Caitlin Clark's in the news, you're going to have an opinion, usually one way or the other.
There are going to be hot takes.
There are hot takes abound on the fact that she will not be participating. So Ionescu's kind of getting a little bit of a pass in the sense, she's getting ready for the Olympics and has been involved. And then obviously she was kind of famously involved with the NBA and its 3-point contest earlier. So she's kind of catching less heat than Caitlin Clark is online. But that's kind of just adding a little extra fuel to the fire, which ultimately I think, what is it? No such thing as bad publicity. I mean, it feels like the WNBA, whether it is perceived as a bad move, it feels like they're kind of reaping the benefits because it's drawing eyeballs to the sport heading into their big weekend.
And the WNBA continues to draw eyeballs, and they are looking to do so on the racetrack as well. Hendersonville driver Josh Berry will have a special paint scheme for his number 4 Ford this weekend at Indy that will feature none other than Caitlin Clark on the hood.
Not the crossover I really thought we'd have ever in my lifetime, but WNBA and NASCAR. It is 2024, so you gotta be open to just about everything, right?
Did not have that on my bingo card. Did not. But apparently Barry drives for Panini America, Panini America will serve as Barry's primary sponsor this weekend, and the hood will feature her Raining Threes trading card. Panini's first sponsorship at the Cup Series level in 3 years, and they will be an associate sponsor for Barry's team for the remainder of the season. The Panini logo will be on the car and on Barry's fire suit, and he will be participating in a number of trackside activations. That's a marketing term, I think. So, interesting stuff. Every race car driver wants to compete at Indy. It's hallowed ground that all of us treat with a tremendous amount of respect. To be there with Panini and promote its new Caitlin Clark collection just adds to the prestige of racing in the Brickyard 400. Indy is a great sports town, and it's an honor to have Caitlin Clark as part of our effort. I wonder if she's going to get back and get out to the track after Saturday's game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect, to use their term, activation opportunity right there. The other interesting thing, too, final point on that is Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese going to be teammates in this game on Saturday because they're both playing for Team WNBA. And the roster makeup is kind of fascinating because pretty much everybody that wasn't chosen as a quote-unquote all-star was already competing for Team USA. So you kind of have a pretty full, even though it's billed as Team USA versus Team WNBA, the roster is pretty much kind of like an Eastern versus Western in that sense because so many of the great players are also obviously competing for Team USA, it looks like.
All right. Should be an interesting ball game tomorrow. I'll probably flip over to it. Try to flip back and forth between. Well, no, I won't flip over to it because I'll be in Atlanta. Never mind. May have to try to record that one. We have talked ad nauseum about NSC. They have their last game before the 11-day break leading up to the Leagues Cup. Tomorrow they go to Philadelphia Union, and they are, as you mentioned, I guess, in the rundown, desperately trying to stop a 5-game skid.
Yeah, and I'm not really hopeful just in the sense of we have not really seen much to be super inspired about. They had a couple of injuries the other night. Tyler Boyd, I think even read it was, you hear the term and you obviously think it's really bad. Hopefully it's not, but I think was stretchered off during the match. So hopefully he can return and be a big help for them maybe at some point the rest of the season if it's a potentially serious injury. But yeah, they just not playing really inspiring right now. And that's the only drawback with the departure of Gary Smith is if Gary Smith were the coach for all the kind of negatives that have gone against him and ultimately led to his dismissal a couple weeks ago or months ago now at this point, they would not have had a 5-match losing streak. He would have found some way to get a draw at least in one of those 5 outings. Now, the only drawback to that is he probably would have drawn a match or 2 that you probably would have expected to win somewhere else down the road. So you kind of take that for what it's worth, but it just feels like Nashville's kind of in turmoil right now, and this Leagues Cup and this break could not have come, and obviously the coaching change coming in could not have come potentially at a better time. I think they're just ready to get this game over with and move on.
Yeah, get this one over with, get on to BJ Callahan and kind of turn the page a little bit. The Union in the MLS standings are only ahead of the New England Revolution. If I'm reading this right, am I? Yeah. So Nashville is actually ahead of them. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah, Philadelphia is toward the bottom of the standings. You are correct. They're just barely above New England. So a winnable match on paper at least, but the only thing is Philadelphia's had Nashville's number. They knocked them out of the postseason a couple years ago when they were still playing at Nissan Stadium. And Philadelphia has kind of just had their number. We talked about the other night. They got a big win on Wednesday. So they're kind of – it's just 2 ships kind of passing in the night, right? Nashville's kind of on a downward trajectory, whereas Philadelphia is kind of trending up at the moment. And the other thing, too, Mo, is Walker Zimmerman is getting ready to be gone for Nashville. He's going to be part of Team USA as one of their – it's basically an all under 23 roster, but you get a few key old heads, if you will. And Zimmerman is going to be one of those guys. So Nashville will be without his services coming up soon. And he's been a key part for Nashville, especially in the defensive efforts, no doubt.
Finally, the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame will hold its 2024 induction class banquet tomorrow at the Omni Nashville downtown. Among the inductees are former Tennessee infielder Chris Burke, Scott Hamilton of Olympic fame, ex-Titan Chris Johnson, Tiger Bells legend Gene Patton Lattimore, Austin P men's basketball coach Dave Luce, Nashville Predators goalie Pekka Rinne, and a number of others will be inducted, as well as other achievement awards being presented. Bill Dance will be recognized as Tennessean of the Year. The Freed Hardeman NAIA National Championship men's basketball team and the Tennessee women's softball team will also be recognized, again, among others. So big event at the Omni Nashville tomorrow night. We were fortunate enough to have Brad Willis on with us when we were down in Lewisburg last Tuesday, and a lot of excitement here for obvious reasons. So this is a big deal, and hopefully everything goes well for them over there tomorrow night. So Wade, what you got going on this weekend?
This weekend, I was hoping to get out to the Hall of Fame. I got to go a couple years ago when R.A. Dickey went in, and it's a fun event. And I'm going to be tied up at Nissan. We got producer Mark's ears may perk up with this one. We've got Def Leppard, Journey, and the Steve Miller Band all performing tomorrow night at Nissan, which will be kind of having me tied up. But I'll be rocking as much as I can. And then,
I've got a friend that's going to that, and they're concerned about parking.
Buckle up. Yeah, that's going to be the concern for the next 3 years, I'm afraid. At the stadium, but should be fun. And then Sunday we'll find something fun to get into, kind of just enjoy the weekend. And you're going to be catching some live MLB, correct?
I'm going down 24/75 tomorrow morning to catch a couple of Braves games, and I was very hesitant. I'm only slightly less hesitant now because I don't want to go down there and spend all this money for them to lose.
Well,
yeah.
You'll be able to give a concessions report.
There
will about the TED dog earlier.
There will be no
Monday.
There will be no TED dogs ingested. I can tell you that. So, but looking forward to it though. Should be a fun weekend. It'll be fun being down there regardless. It's always nice to go after Truists. So, enjoy your concert tomorrow night. You guys enjoy your weekend. We will see y'all back here at 2:00 on Monday. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios, and we appreciate you joining us. See you Monday.